Good evening and welcome. I am so thrilled to have two guests with me today. This is Taya Rozman, who was the founder of Green Card Voices, and also Julie Vang, who is on staff. Can you just introduce yourselves and what your role is with Green Card Voices?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm a co-founder of Green Card Voices that was founded in 2013, and now I'm a member of our co-leadership team. My role is the executive director, making sure the strategy and partnerships and the development of the organization is going in line with our mission and goals.
That's great. And Julie.
Hello, everyone. So this is Julie Vang, and I'm the program director. A lot of my work is overseeing the relationships and coordinations of our storytellers, which we feature over 500 stories already, which, we're really eager to also share a little more about the work and the stories later on.
Yeah, so in 2013, a group of immigrants came together and we really felt that the backlash against immigrants was increasing. We could see increased xenophobia, not in just our state, but across the country. And we felt it was really important for immigrants to have their own voice. And we thought it would be great to create a platform where our voices could be amplified and shared widely so that people don't jump to conclusions or stereotypes or generalizations about who immigrants are, but actually hear stories from us from firsthand.
I can say that Green Card Voices over the last 7 years has tremendously grown. I've only been staff for over a year, but I've been seeing the tremendous work from a community lens. Yeah. And it literally has transformed from just recording and sharing first-person stories, really to combat the stereotypes, right? Yet also foster empathy and build appreciation for the diverse immigrant experience here in the US. And again, like we've recorded over 500 stories coming from 140 different countries, and it's also local here. They're literally your neighbors. They can be your classmate, they can be a colleague. And all of this dynamic work has transformed into our social media, which we also make sure it's out there to broaden the understanding for our audience. We also have published books. That's something Tay and I would talk about. Like, we are in the midst of publishing our 10th book. And it's all also digitally. So it's accessible in a publication, hardcover copy, into a ebook version. So you can literally read it anywhere. And we also have traveling exhibits, which is like 8-foot long banner that each of our storyteller gets, and it goes into physical spaces to really understand the depth and breadth of immigrant experience. If you don't see that often in your community, like you can have a future inside your community. Like, you don't have to go far to do that or travel the world to get that experience. It can just be right where you live.
Exactly. So in 2018, One Voice produced the Sanctuary concert, and Green Card Voices were our guests, and we had two young speakers as a part of the conference. And then in the Ordway lobby, we had these huge 8-foot banners, and it really was like bringing these stories to life. It was really beautiful, really beautiful. So, Julie, were you going to say more about some programming that Green Card Voices is working on?
Yes, absolutely. So there's so many more. Let me just share a little bit more.
Yeah, that's great.
And then Story Stitch, which was launched in 2018, co-created by 70 community members to really bring and deepen the conversation of stories, because each of us have a story to share. It's just a matter of fact of having a platform to do that. So it's really to build empathy, foster relationship with each other through these storytelling conversational card games.
The questions are open-ended, so you get to share your story, and then if someone connects to that story, has a similar story, or wants to ask some questions related to the story, they say, "Oh, I want to stitch that," and they make that connection, and then they exchange the stories. So we did a lot of research, and we realized that's how empathy is built and strengthened, and that's how connections deepen, and how, you know, those stereotypes or generalizations sort of fade away. So that's how individuals can really connect to one another deeply.
Wow. You know, one of the things that was so beautiful when we were programming the Sanctuary concert was that we did a lot of exploration as singers for each person to talk about their own immigrant story, because we all have immigrant stories, unless you are a First Nations person who has been here for much, much, much longer. Most of us have some kind of immigration story, and it was sort of creating common ground, and it sounds like exactly that's what your story stitch is doing. Oh, that's so beautiful. We're going to watch just a little bit of the One Voice concert and then come back for more conversation.
On the first day of January 1892, they opened Ellis Island and they let the people through. And the first to cross the threshold of the Isle of Hope and Tears was Annie Moore from Ireland, who was all of 15 years. Isle of Hope, Isle of Tears, Isle of Freedom, Isle of Fears, but it's not the isle you left behind. That Isle of Hunger, Isle of Pain, Isle you'll never see again. But the Isle of Home is always on your mind. In a little bag she carried all her past and history, and her dreams for the future in the land of liberty. And courage is the passport when your old world disappears, 'cause there's no future in the past when you're 15 years. Isle of Hope, Isle of Tears, Isle of Freedom, Isle of Fears, but it's not the isle you left behind. That Isle of Hunger, Isle of Pain, Isle you'll never see again. But the Isle of Home is always on your mind. When they closed down Ellis Island in 1943, 17 million people had come there for sanctuary. But in springtime when I came here and I stepped onto its piers, I thought of how it must have been when you're only 15 years. Isle of Hope, Isle of Tears, Isle of Freedom, Isle of Fears, but it's not the isle you left behind. That Isle of Hunger, Isle of Pain, Isle you'll never see again. But the Isle of Home is always on your mind. Isle of Hope, Isle of Tears, Isle of Freedom, Isle of Fears, but it's not the isle you left behind. That Isle of Hunger, Isle of Pain, Isle you'll never see again. But the Isle of Home is always on your mind. But the Isle of Home is always on your mind.
Minnesota was a place of sanctuary on the Underground Railroad. the network of secret routes and houses that offered safe passage for fleeing slaves who followed the drinking gourd, the Big Dipper's North Star. Safety was a bit of a misnomer, however, since slave owners were generally allowed to come into Minnesota to force their property back into captivity.
African Americans have lived in Minnesota since the 1800s, primarily in the Twin Cities. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, they founded churches, newspapers, community centers, and labor unions, addressing the reality that most labor unions barred blacks from membership.
On January 1st, 1869, Minnesota became the first state in the Union to extend voting rights to black men. Of course, legal rights do not always ensure equal rights. As recently as 1920, a white mob lynched 3 black men in Duluth.
In the 1960s, St. Paul's vibrant Rondo neighborhood was destroyed, and more than 600 African American residents were displaced to build Interstate 94. Racial disparities and de facto segregation still exist today.
With the drinking gourd, we honor black Minnesota leaders, past and present, who remind us that black lives matter. And continue to pave the way in creating a safe and vibrant sanctuary for African Americans.
So our Somali neighbors are the second largest group of foreign-born Minnesotans today. And Somalia Toso, or Somalia Wake Up, was their national anthem until 2012. So I thought that y'all ought to learn it and sing it. So that when you're walking down the street, you can sing it to a Somali neighbor. I know I see a few drop jaws, but the words are in your program on the main page, and I'm going to teach them to you. So repeat after me. Somalia Toso. Toso isku. Tir sadae. Hadbakina. Tag darane. Let's do that one again. Hadbakina. Tag darane. Tagera. Waligine. You got it memorized? All right, perfect. Here's your starting pitch. We're going to sing a line and you sing it back. Here we go. Awesome. And now, since it's the national anthem, you will all stand to sing.
Minnesota became a state over 150 years ago. More than half its land was forest. The white pines were epic. They were often 200 feet tall and 6 feet wide. These pines fueled the lumber industry, which became the heart of the Minnesota economy. In 1901, as Teddy Roosevelt took office, there were 30,000 lumberjacks working in Minnesota forests. They were mostly European immigrants, sleeping 2 to a bunk and eating enormous breakfasts. Yes, they were powered by pancakes. Is it any wonder that 2 gay artists in the 1930s were captivated by the heroic lumberjack legend? Librettist W.H. Auden and composer Benjamin Britten. Paul Bunyan was Britten's first operetta and incorporated a variety of American musical styles, including folk songs, hymns, and blues. In this scene, Bunyan has the task of choosing a foreman from his hardy crew of immigrant lumberjacks.
Welcome, and settle down. We have no time to waste. The trees are waiting for the axe, and we must all make haste. So, who shall be the foreman to set in hand the work, to organize the logging, and see folks do not shirk? I, your names?
Cross, cross, halsa.
Andy Anderson.
In your opinion, which of you, which one would be the best to be the leader of the crew and govern all the rest?
My birthplace was in Sweden, it's a very long way off. My appetite was hearty, but I couldn't get enough. Then suddenly I heard a roar across the wide blue sea. I'll give you steak and onions if you come and work for me.
In France I would have maiden with an alabaster skin, but she left me for a fancy chap who played the violin. When just about to drown myself, a voice came from the sky. There's no one like a lumberjack to catch a maiden's eye.
Long ago in Germany, while sitting at my ease, there came a knocking at my door, and it was the police. I tiptoed down the backstairs, and a voice to me did say, there's freedom in the forest out in North America.
The Ojibwa people arrived in Minnesota around the 1500s, traveling along the Great Lakes from the East Coast. According to prophecy, they traveled until they reached a land where food grows on water. Monoman, the good grain, wild rice.
300 years later, European immigrants moved westward, changing forever the lives of the Ojibwa people. An 1837 treaty with the Ojibwa opened a large part of Minnesota to logging. Trees were harvested to build log houses and raise crops, destroying many Minnesota forests.
The influx of non-native people into Minnesota was devastating to the Ojibwe, my mother's people. The tribe went from being a regional power to occupying a small area of their original homeland, but with rights to hunt, gather, and harvest wild rice in the ceded territories. The same treaty is now being contested over hunting and fishing rights, while Minnesota lakes and rivers suffer from contamination and pollution. 40% of Minnesota's water is impaired by farm runoff, bacteria, mercury, and other pollutants.
This fall, we had the honor of learning the Nibe water song from Sharon Day, an Ojibwe grandmother and water protector through her maternal lineage. She described the role of women as life givers and water protectors in the Ojibwe tradition. Sharon's Nibe walks are focused in faith. Faith in the water spirits, faith in the earth, faith in humankind, and faith in the power of love. She encouraged us and everyone to sing this song every day for the water.
Today we are blessing water that has been gathered from across the world. The song says, "Water, we love you. We thank you. We respect you."
Okay, welcome back. Thank you again to our Green Card Voices guests. I'm really interested about how xenophobia has changed or morphed during COVID-19. I'm sure you have seen some kinds of changes. Julie, can you talk about that?
Yeah, let me just first by saying that xenophobia is nothing new.
Right.
It's always been there. And I think recently it's been even more visible because of our current administrations and, you know, also people making more racist remarks. There's a lot of division happening.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people are talking back at each other without understanding, without even willingness to share each other's story, getting to know each other from a very human connection. It's all about I'm right, you're wrong, and having this like division against each other. So that's really the rise and the harm of xenophobia, and we see that happening, especially with COVID, with the root causes of like multiple people saying that it's a Chinese virus because it stemmed from China itself. But that's really not the message that we want to send for people. Is that the message is that we are all neighbors here, and we have a story, and that we contribute so many here, and that these are very harmful messages that we're sending to people. So then, what Green Card Voices have been doing is we recently launched a social media campaign to really combat all the harm that is inflicted, especially on our Asian American community, and that's sharing anti-xenophobia messaging related to COVID-19, but also to build solidarity with our neighbors. So we launched our Love Your Asian Neighbors campaign, and this is really a collaboration between 3 immigrant illustrators to recreate xenophobia cases that are happening around the US. Yeah, so the first one, this is illustrated by illustrated by Sunshine Gao, talking about our essential healthcare workers out there, in that there's xenophobia, and as an Asian American person who is contributing, who has gone through education, right, who has contributed to their patients, come home and get this note on their door that says, "Take your Chinese virus back to China." Just think about the message and what it portrays.
One of the young people that participated as part of the Sanctuary concert was Luis Angel, and he told his story about coming out and also told his story as an immigrant. And I'm wondering if, Julie, could you talk a little bit about what are the extra challenges that immigrants who are gay, lesbian, bi, transgender, what are the extra challenges that those folks experience?
Yeah, over time, some of the challenges is like coming out, right? And like, when do you do that? The support system, the resources, who do they go to? Those are continuous challenges and barriers people often go to, especially if they think they're alone in this world and alone in their identity. And all the toxic and negativity, continues to go through their minds and then also trickle into their bodies. And oftentimes there's a lot of bullying involved because they start freezing because they don't know what to say, or especially for immigrants or refugees, if like English is it's their second language, communicating what does it mean to be identify as a LGBTQIA in that sort of community. There's a lot of uncertainties because you're still finding your identity and figuring that out for the external world. When obviously obviously a lot of it's like your identity inside. And I think there's just finding a platform, finding a community that you just resonate with. And I think once you do, then yeah, things start to change when you can be more open about it. You feel more positive, you can share your story in that way. And we can see that in Luis Angel's story.
Yeah, I know that's true even within One Voice Mixed Chorus. People come to the chorus and it becomes a family for people, often for people who are not safe coming out in their own biological family, in their church or synagogue community, religious community. I think that's true for immigrants and people who are older immigrants as well to this country. So this is Luis Angel telling their coming out story as a part of the Sanctuary concert.
Finding who you are is something that takes a lot of time for some of us. I always knew that I was different, but I couldn't express myself. I struggled for many years trying to find my identity. When I finally thought I was sure about who I was, I told my sister. She was very supportive. I was actually very scared to talk to my family about this. I was just 12. One day, I decided that my mom needed to know. I wanted to share the real me with her. It did not turn well. She took me to church, tried to talk me out of it because all this was just 30 thoughts. And she had faith that I was going to change. Honestly, I don't blame her for her reaction. As she said, she did not have any education about the gay community, and all she knew was that society rejected us. I was sent with my dad to work and tried to learn things that men do. At this point, I never shared who I was with my dad, but he always argued with me because I did not behave like a man. They were trying to change me, to erase my identity, and to make a new person out of me. I started to hate myself, and I felt so miserable that I wanted to kill myself. Things did improve with the time, but this was mostly because my mother found out I was going to leave the country. She told me that she accepts me and loves me no matter what because I was her son and nothing will change that. When I came to the United States, I came only with my dad. Our relationship was not the best. We argued about me and my style. He was never happy with what I wore, the way I walked, or laughed. If I cried, it was not okay because men don't cry. He had this mentality of a macho man. I was always scared that he was going to hurt me or kick me out of the house. In 2015, I started dating a wonderful man whom I love very much. For my high school graduation, he was introduced as a friend to my dad. I was so nervous because I knew I couldn't fool my dad, but I tried. Days later, the question that came up from him was, "What type of relationship do you have with your friend?" I struggled and I stayed silent for a little, and I took a deep breath and I told him that it was time for him to know that he was not my friend, that he was my boyfriend. I felt something that I cannot describe. I felt free of fear. He did not take it well, and we did not speak for months. It was painful, but I knew that things were going to get better between us. With the time, I started noticing that my dad wasn't feeling good, not having conversations with me. We discussed the topic, and I told him that I was sorry, but I will never change, and I will stay with my boyfriend because I love him. The change I have seen in my dad has shocked me. I know that I can freely speak about my relationship in my life with my family, and they will not have a negative reaction. At this point of my life, I am completely free of keeping the secret of who I am. Un lugar, un hogar, nuestro hogar. Un lugar que podemos llamar el nuestro, hacer el nuestro. Un lugar para vivir, crecer y ser. Un pedazo de lo nuestro que compartimos con el mundo. Un trozo de nuestros corazones que traemos a la comunidad. Un mundo de consuelo y un mundo de calma. Un mundo de amor.
There are a couple more very exciting projects that Green Card Voices is working on, and I'm particularly excited about your new graphic novel. Can you talk about this a little bit?
So yes, this is our 10th book, and major labor of love. Oh my gosh, we've been working on this project for over 2 years now, and the title is Our Stories Carried Us Here. And out of 500 stories, we selected 10 stories from across the whole country. So this is going to be our first national collection, graphic novel anthology, so 10 stories. What is so unique about this book is that we were able to hire 10 illustrators who are from all over the world, immigrants and refugees to the United States, but also working with two that are actually, one is in Cameroon, Africa, and one is in London, UK. So we really wanted this to be as authentic as possible. And Julie and I and Tom Kaczynski are the editors, and we had an incredible privilege over this COVID months to work through Zoom and create this space where this co-creation took place, where the storytellers and the illustrators sort of created the stories and went constantly back and forth. And, it's going to be a genre that is extremely appealing to so many young people and actually, so many people of any ages because it's visual and there's a lot of different languages, just very authentic. I think having worked through the Minneapolis uprising time on this book made everybody really cognizant of really talking openly about racial justice in connection to immigration. So there's just so much there. We're so proud of it.
If people that are watching this want to get involved or learn more about Green Card Voices, how would you suggest that they jump in and get involved in supporting immigrants in particular, but also specifically with Green Card Voices?
I would say, volunteer. There's facilitation training with StoryStage. Check out our website with multiple resources. And feel free to contact us directly at any time as well.
I know everybody's having difficult times this time, but if you can purchase some books or StoryStage decks, that's great. And you can give them to your loved ones in this upcoming holiday season.
And I want to encourage everyone also to fight your own xenophobia by greeting your neighbors and taking walks and ordering food from minority-owned businesses. Just go to spaces where you're hearing music that you don't usually hear. There's so many ways, especially here in Minneapolis, but in so many cities and places across North America and beyond, that you can connect and learn to know people around you. Thank you, a huge thank you to Taya and to Julie from Green Card Voices, and we look forward to seeing how your work continues to expand and change this world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.